Hello, everybody. Hello. It's so nice to see so many of you in the chat. And first, I want to say congratulations, Keely. We are so proud of that boy. He has done so well. You must be dead proud. I can only imagine how you're feeling right now, probably bursting with pride. But he's earned it. He's worked hard for that. Indeed, no one just handed that to him. Yeah, talking about jerky. I thought you might have been talking about like that very specific 24-year-old redhead jerky that we were talking about in the video the other day. Jay, I'm so happy you're here. This is my very first nighttime stream and you made it. You could come. I'm so glad. Yeah, I know, Michael Stott. You know what? If you guys are like me and you normally are at Kaz's streams some evenings during the week, I've actually really missed him this time on holiday. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm just gonna stream and have a chat with you guys because I had no other plans tonight. So what else is a shut-in to do? How are you guys going tonight? It's so nice to see you all here. Russ Wake, hello. Oh gosh, my dog. He's being naughty in the background. JP, you need to come up and help me with the dog. 24. I know. You know when you get, when you're old, when you start. I remember the very first time I realized I was old because in the tattoo shop we always used to check IDs. And it was when the people who were born in the 80s were turning 18 is when I started to feel old. So I've felt old for some time now. Happy Saturday night, folks. Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time visiting, well, hello there. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you spending your very valuable time at my little channel. Let's hang out. Let's just spend some time together. Did you guys enjoy that little video I put up today of my daughter Rose and I? You'll know her in the chat. She's a moderator sometimes when she comes in. Blood Red Rose. That was Blood Red Rose and I. Because her lovely brothers, my wonderful sons, decided to recommend that we play this game, but on the condition that we recorded it. Thanks, JP. Go on, get out of here. Thanks, JP. See you back in chat in a minute. That was the sniper that I have living downstairs, just popping up for a second. Hi, Gav. It's nice to see you. I thought we might, as it's a special weekend stream, you like that, Jay? I'm sure that's just why they wanted us to play it, because every time we watch something scary or every time we do something, it's just Rose and I really just screaming. Oh, maybe we'll have to do a long one. Maybe we'll have to actually let you see some of our gameplay. But our condition is that the boys pick the games, so they're just going to keep picking scary games. But I thought we'd have a special weekend stream as a thank you to you all for the love and the likes and the subscribes, because you guys are awesome. So this is going to be a little different tonight. Let's just chit chat and hang out. And tonight I wanted to share I thought, what have I got to talk about with them? And I thought you might enjoy some of the Tattoo Parlour story times. So I hope you enjoy some tales from the tattoo studio. So I'm so glad you liked it. I was sitting on it for like a week or so, and one of my sons said, you've got to post that video. I said, but it's just Rose and I getting really scared and not knowing how to play a game and screaming. And he said, that's why it's funny. So my Rose is famous around here for don't watch a scary movie with her. We used to watch scary movies and JP would be in the middle of us and we'd both end up hiding most of the time and he'd have to give us a running commentary of what was going on. Okay, the number one, well, it's not in any particular order. The number one story that I wanted to tell you about was a guy that we'll just call Stack Hat Man. There's certain things that happen in a tattoo parlor that it's gonna be trouble when it happens. And that is if someone comes in who's wearing a hospital bracelet, or if they come in wearing a bicycle helmet yet they didn't ride a bike there. And you can usually tell this is going to be interesting. And there was this guy came in, and I didn't talk to him at the reception desk, okay? Because it's usually, if you're a tattoo artist who's done your apprenticeship, you're busy tattooing, and usually the apprentices, or if you've got a receptionist, we didn't have a receptionist at the time, we'll speak to whoever comes up to the counter. And this guy came up, and the apprentice, was a really great girl. She's one of my best tattoo friends. At Stack Hat Man, I've no other name for him because it was one of those really old, yellow, chunky stack hats, right? And he hadn't ridden a bike there. So like I said, you watch out for people who are wearing hospital bracelets and stack hats without a bike, because then you know something's going to go wrong. And he was speaking to the apprentice at the time. And I could tell just from where I was tattooing that she was having a bit of trouble talking to him. And I thought, don't come over to me. Don't come over to me. I'm busy. So I'm there trying to look really busy so she won't. So, yeah, I talk to stack hat people too. But when they're coming into your business, into the tattoo studio, you know it's probably going to be a very strange request. And this would have to be... This wasn't even about tattoo. We did piercing there too, right? So this was probably, I think, my number one strangest body modification request I've ever had or heard of. And anyway, my little friend was having trouble understanding him, and she kept looking at me, but I was avoiding eye contact, because I knew it, right? And she ended up having to come over to me, and she said, I can't understand what this man wants. And I said, well, what do you mean you can't understand what he wants? What is it, a piercing, a tattoo? She said, I think it's a piercing. And I said, what? Well, what's so weird about it? You know, we had lists of all the piercings and implants and modifications that you could get. And she said that he wanted, something about toothpicks was all I could understand from her. So I thought, oh, you've just lost it in translation. So I thought I'll go talk to him myself. So I go up to the reception desk. Dude's still got his stack hat on. And I don't know, but he may as well have even had a hospital bracelet on as well. Okay, this guy was bad. And he explained to me, and I understood why she had trouble. He kept showing me his forearm, and he kept saying through here. And I thought, oh, he wants surface piercings, where you just go through the fatty bit of the skin. No problem. Body rejects them, quite often. But yeah, no problem. We can do that. But then he said he wanted toothpicks through there, at like a surface piercing. And I didn't understand toothpicks, because that wouldn't work for a piercing at all. That could be dangerous, And he said that he wanted them to be fragrant toothpicks. Normal toothpicks wouldn't have worked. They had to be fragrant toothpicks. Now, I'm still not quite sure what he meant about fragrant toothpicks, or why he wanted them pierced all up his forearm, fragrant toothpicks. If anyone, I had to explain to him that we don't do that, and I sent him to the shop down the road. So you're welcome. And so I thought, I've spent all these years, and it must have been 25 years ago, right? Maybe more, wondering what actually was going on in Stack Hat Man's brain about the fragrant toothpicks that he wanted under his skin. And that is actually the end of Stack Hat Man's story. It wasn't that was probably the strangest piercing request, or one of, but the strangest tattoo request I've ever had. And I'm not sure if John Paul was in the tattoo studio for this one or not, but in fact, it might have been John Paul was the apprentice talking to the guy. But anyway, I had someone come up to me. I was tattooing, and I used to get a bit annoyed, to be honest with you, if the apprentice couldn't deal with someone's inquiry. Yeah, Kaz knows all about toothpick piercing. He does. You're right. Maybe he could help me understand Stack Hat Man in a new way. Well, I'm sure it was JP. Anyway, one of my apprentices at the time, and it used to annoy me when they couldn't deal with the customer's inquiry out in the reception area. It used to annoy me because I'd have to stop what I was doing. Time is money. Money was mine. And I'd have to stop what I was doing to go talk to a customer, which, in my opinion, they were trained to do. They should have been able to. Not in this case, because even I was really surprised. So they came and got me, and I think they said to me, "Can you tattoo a tan?" And I thought they meant sunburn and that, because you shouldn't tattoo sunburnt skin or damaged skin, or say Simcast needs a stacker. I don't know if I can get them. And so I thought, what do you mean? No, you know the rules. You can't tattoo skin that's damaged by the sun and that. And they said, no. Can you tattoo a tan on this man? All over. He wanted me to tattoo every single part of him tanned. And I'm just looking at him going, do you realize how much that would cost? More than anything else, let's just talk about the tens of thousands of dollars that tattoo would cost. Imagine how patchy it would be. Imagine trying to mix the pigment the same every time. That would be he did look unstable. He did. Are you talking about Tan Man? Was that you, JP? I thought it was. But Tan Man did look unstable, and he must have been. And I had to say to him, no, I won't do that. But there was a little evil part of my brain saying, take the money and run. Take the money and run. But no, I didn't. I took the moral high ground, and I can safely say I did not tattoo the tan on that man or take his tens of thousands of dollars to do so. We can't, but it wasn't even blackface that he was after. It was just tan colour. And I thought, I don't think he understood how tattoos worked or their limits. Imagine everywhere. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. That's too much. It's far too much. The next little story, I decided to call For Your Own Good. Okay. Now, there are some times in the tattoo shop that I would say no to a tattoo just because I didn't want a customer to regret it, because it's still got my name attached to it. And even if it was just a bad choice of design, if they regretted it, I would be heartbroken. So I wouldn't do anything that I thought they'd regret. And I think this was JP as well too, working the reception desk. And this guy came in, and JP, I think he came over to me and he said, how much for this? Which was quite often, because you'd quote a price, they'd just bring in their own pictures and they'd show you and you'd quote a price. And it was just a stick figure. It wasn't even a well-drawn stick figure. It was just a stick figure. And I looked up at the man and I said, is it special to you? I thought, has your child drawn it? Because if your child's drawn it, then it's special and then I'll do it. But he said, no, it's not special. And I said, well, why do you want it? And he said, oh, I lost a bet and I wanted it and I've got to get it. And I thought, no, you could go down the road for that too. We're not doing that. So I actually didn't say that. I can't remember how much I quoted, but I quoted him some ridiculous price, right? It would have been about this big. And I quoted him something like, $800 or something. Way too much for a stick figure. No, it wasn't the Saint logo. It wasn't any logo. It was just a badly drawn stick figure. It kind of had a couple of fingers and a bit of hair or something. It wasn't like the Saint. It wasn't any kind of logo. It wasn't any kind of picture. Otherwise, JP probably could have helped him out with it anyway. It was $400, and that was quite way back. And it was tiny. And he was shocked, the look on his face at my quote. And he said, why is it so expensive? And I can't remember my exact words, but there was something along the lines of to put you off getting it, to put you off doing this because you are going to regret it. Tattoos aren't really a joke. They are there forever. Some tattoo artists will do that. I took myself very seriously. I still do, really. So I wouldn't do that at all. And I'm sure it was just to put him off. I should put something in the background, shouldn't I, for you? Something How about something tattooy in the background as we talk? And so I said, yeah, to put you off getting it. And then I gave him a bit of a lecture because he said it wasn't even that special. It wasn't even that big a deal. I don't even know if he'd lost a bet. He was just weird, that guy. So anyway, I sent him down the road as well. I'm sure they used to love me. It's all right. My friend used to work down the road. She used to send me plenty. Never make a tattoo bet. Exactly. Yeah, draw the line with haircuts. There's nothing permanent. Exactly. That is very good advice, because where does it end? Like, if you lose a bet and you've got to transition to the other sex, where does it end? That's my question. Okay. Now, the next one is probably quite well known if you've ever worked in a tattoo studio. I like to call it the reception desk disappearing act. And it's a very special trick that you do. Hi, good morning. Good morning and good evening, Nicole. Sorry, I'm so used to doing morning streams. So it's a very special thing that happens in tattoo studios. And it's like a magic trick, right? Someone will be there talking to someone either in a stack hat or with a hospital bracelet, or the more experienced tattoo artists will see them coming. And then the next thing you know, everybody's disappeared and you are stuck there at the reception desk to talk to this person that no one else wants to talk to. It's actually a thing. You can ask JP about it. In fact, I've also got a story to tell you about JP being the victim of the ditch your colleague disappearing act. It's pretty funny. But ditching your colleagues, it's not even offensive. It's fun. It's like a game. Whoever gets stuck there, they get stuck there. Sometimes, now I had an all-female tattoo studio there actually for some time. It was actually, I think, until John Paul came along and happened to be a dude in there. And we would get, or sometimes you'd get the odd pervert come in, okay? And what happened was we'd get some flashes. We'd get exhibitionists come in from time to time. And I learned that in fact, it was my mother taught me this, that, if you've got someone who's flashing at you, the AJ fadeaway, I think you've called it that before. It is exactly like that, okay? And so my mother taught me that when you're dealing with an exhibitionist, that you should just show no reaction, because even if you're angry, shocked, surprised, anything, that's what they're going for. So if you stay totally deadpan, they haven't got what they wanted from you. So this guy came in, because there's two kind of exhibitionist stories that I've included in here. I have lots more, but just these two would go into my top 10. Now, this guy, we hadn't even opened yet, and I had a new apprentice there, and it was her, second day of work. And we'd get in there early. She was vacuuming and mopping and making sure we had the autoclave running and everything was ready for the day. And I was out in the reception area just going through the books, and this guy just walked in. We should have probably had the door locked, being there alone, because it was pretty early. And we're talking Townsville too. So this guy walked in and I thought, something's wrong with him. He wasn't wearing a stack hat. He didn't have a hospital bracelet on, but he had his hands very deep in his pockets. Okay. Too deep in his pockets. I thought, what are you up to there, sir? And I said, we're not open. And before I could say anything else, he actually pulled down his pants, his tracksuit pants, and said, what do you think of this? And he said, what can you do with this? And he pulled down his pants and he had nothing on. But he had this old, faded, like a dragon. The dragon was tattooed on his, whatnot. And the dragon wings were sort of up on his abdomen. And I remember deadpan, but all I was thinking was, oh my gosh, I really hope my apprentice doesn't look up. I hadn't taught her that yet, and it was her first day of work. I thought, please just keep vacuuming. Don't turn around. Don't turn around. I'll deal with it. And I looked at it and I said, I can't do anything. Nothing. I can't do anything with it. It's crooked. And he said, he kept his pants down and said, what do you mean? And I said, your tattoo, it's crooked. Whoever did that, put it on crooked. And he quickly whipped up his pants and he was so embarrassed. And I said to him, I could fix it for you, but it would cost you. And I gave him a quote, and we would always add extra on if it was genitals, for obvious reasons, because one, you don't want people just coming to you because it's cheaper to get you to touch their genitals than someone else, and also because sometimes it's not very pleasant, other people's genitals, just sometimes. You'd think people would take better care of themselves downstairs, but they don't all. But so anyway, the crooked dragon guy, I quoted him a price to fix it, but I don't think we saw him again after that. He just walked right out. And the next exhibitionist that we had in the studio, I'll call this story the counterflop, okay? Because we had a jewelry cabinet with all the like piercing stuff that we'd sell, and it was part of our reception desk. Yeah, you know, there's a reason we get paid well, you know, because it's not always stuff other people want to do. So this one's called the counterflop. This actually happened to me when I was working in someone else's studio, but it had this reception desk, a glass one, like a jewelry cabinet with all the jewelry in. And I'd been there drawing, so I had a ruler and a pencil in my hand. That becomes important in the story, trust me. And yeah, I've done lots of genital tattoos. It doesn't mean they need to be preverts about it, you know? Yeah, exactly. Well, and this guy just walked right up to the counter, right? And just got his todger out and just slapped it down on the counter, like flopped it out onto this counter right in front of me and said, what do you think of that? And I, very quick thinking, I had my ruler in my hand and I snapped it down on that counter like within a couple of centimeters of where he'd put his thing. And I said, get that off of there. I've just cleaned that. So, and boy, you never seen anybody move that quick. I was actually nearly broke the cabinet with my ruler snap, but don't bring that near me if I haven't asked you to, or if you haven't paid me to. That sounded bad, but in this context, you all know what I mean. So you never seen anything move that quick. Unless you're talking about the days when I used to do penis splitting, and then you never seen anything disappear as quick as when there's a woman with a scalpel coming towards a pilamosi. That's pretty funny too. You just don't want to have had a bad day with your old man before you go to work. But the ruler snap, I was actually quite proud of myself for that one, because it could shock you, and it could be, you know, so ladies in the workplace, okay, come on, there's levels of sexual harassment. Just learn to deal with some of it. deal with some of it. Well, I only had two things in my hand, right, Jay? And the pencil would have taken, I didn't want my hands to go near his doodle, so that's why I chose the ruler. I already had it in my hand. Oh, and it made a crack too. You should have seen how quickly he moved. He moved pretty freaking quick. And hopefully he wouldn't go down the road and do that to my other tattoo girlfriends. Okay, we talked about this a little bit in one of my Get to Know You streams. Sometimes, we always used to get sailors into tattoo shops. Sailors in tattoo shops, when we see sailors, we just see dollar signs, okay? Because that's a lot of money. Okay, when sailors would come in, you'd work until you were having to use fragrant toothpicks to hold your eyelids open, right? That's how much you'd just work and work and work and make as much money as you could with the sailors. But sometimes, if they misbehaved, or just because we're Australians, we would sometimes have some fun with them. Like, I think I told you the fat slapper story, so I won't repeat that one. Hi, Drunk Aussie, it's nice to see you. But in Townsville, and I suppose you could do this wherever you were, there's always a gay bar, right? So when they ask you for somewhere really great to go, you never send them to an actual bar. You never send them to somewhere that's not a gay bar, right? So you just send them to and they usually come back and say that they had the best time of their lives, right? Because if you've ever partied with LGBT people, you'll know they know how to party. And they look after their friends when they're partying too. So it was sort of harmless. Once, because it was an all-female tattoo studio that I had, men used to come into our friends, our tattoo shop friends. Sometimes our customers would worry about us, especially when it was late at night. Sometimes we'd be working till like 2 or 3 in the morning, sometimes all night. And they'd come in and we'd actually have them sleeping on the floor of the reception after we'd told them we didn't have time to tattoo them while they're in town, just in case someone didn't show up for their appointment, or if you could just in case, chuck it in. So it's a lot of money from sailors. They were, that's exactly right. You remember the story, Keely. Well, anyway, this one, we'd had these guys and they were like the last ones for the evening. So it was kind of, okay, all right, another $400 and we'll do it. And so we were just finishing up, and my apprentice, you'd always get your apprentices to do the easy tattoos on sailors. Well, one, because they're going in another direction. So if it's if it's terrible, they're never going to see them again. But not that you tried to let your apprentices do terrible tattoos, but they've got to learn somewhere, right? And it's very different tattooing your friends and family than it is tattooing an actual paid customer. But that's a whole nother story. So there was these dudes. I was tattooing one, she was tattooing the other. And we had a couple of our tattoo friends. And in fact, they were both 2RAR men who were there. In fact, no, there was 3 2RAR men in the tattoo shop while we were waiting up. And just after we'd finished and we were cleaning up and we were chatting with our 2RAR guys, and we got a phone call, and it was the 2 sailors that we just tattooed, and they said, oh, we've got this really great room. It's like the penthouse suite. They told us what hotel. They said, you need to come up and we'll have a spa party. And JP might remember this. So I said, oh, no, I don't think we would. But they got the 2RAR boys got so upset at me. They said, Lauren, you should have said yep, and you two can come, we'll get the other boys, everybody can bring their kids, and we'll all come to their hotel room, we'll bring the kids, we'll have fun in the spa, it'll be great. So I sometimes wish that we had have invited the whole of 2RAR to the spa party, and their kids and their missuses. Bretty only pops in here every now and then. He's an honorary ladies auxiliary. Yeah, oh, that's right. JP's idea was to send in the homeless to go to the park and find some Townsville Park people and tell them the hotel room. We probably should have done that. That would have actually been really funny, because they were really sleazy. Like they weren't treating us like professionals at all. So anyway, now in the tattoo shop, when there's downtime, it's actually really rare that there's downtime, okay? And it's usually when your customer's late or you finished early, which doesn't really happen very often, right? Hey, the wood. Oh, good, I'm glad. And so we, tattoo artists, we get up to hijinks. We do, don't we, JP? And we would, I remember there being, like, we'd make up games. We'd have the obvious ones like office chair racing, but they'd always get really extreme. We invented this game once, and it was in a tattoo studio I was working at in Townsville called Silver Spur. And we used to throw things at each other when you were bored or had no customers. And it was usually empty tissue boxes or anything you could get your hands on. You'd just sort of throw it at the other person over there. And you expect it when you least expect it, right? And one day, someone threw a packet of an empty little Mentos box. You used to be able to get Mentos in a little box, and they threw it at me, and I caught it and I stuffed it with tissues, right? And then I piffed it back. But another tattoo artist in the middle reached up and grabbed it. And what he did, he was the son of the owner of Silver Spur. This has made this game legendary, what he did. He got tissues and sticky tape from his workstation, because we've always got tissues and sticky tape at our workstations, right? Tissues, sticky tape, and he started wrapping it around. And then he went and got one of the studio's stubby coolers. It was this fat by this time, right? And he shoved it into the stubby cooler, and then he just threw it like really hard at the guy had to sort of go back with his office chair to hit it back. So then this sort of tennis game began, and it ended up, we must have just seen Lord of the Rings, because someone quoted, who's the guy, Frodo's little friend, they should have just given him the ring in the first place, he wouldn't have been tempted with it. And he said, oh no, it was Gollum, I think, said, you can keep your nasty taters. So the game was called Nasty Taters, right? And it was actually quite difficult. And then we used to wait. We used to actually try and time it, our customers, if there was only one person tattooing, and we were waiting for him to finish so that the game of taters could begin. So it got really extreme. There was blood drawn on several times because office chairs, not very stable for zipping around, because you couldn't get off your chair to hit it. That was the rules. And we still play nasty taters today. We have a different tater, but we still play. Yeah, you can keep your nasty taters, JP. Next time, JP. Next time. I have worked in tattoo studios where the hijinks even got a little bit darker. So if you are going into a tattoo studio, just act normal, okay? Because if you don't act normal, you may find yourself on some sort of hall of shame in the back room, okay? Same as take care of yourself, okay? Downstairs, if you're getting a procedure done downstairs, because I once knew a tattoo studio, because you would always take photos of your piercings, even if they were genital piercings, the same as tattoos, you still take photos of them. But every now and then, someone would have genitals so unique in this tattoo studio that they would make it to the wall in the back room. And I'm ashamed to say I laughed, but I did. Because there was one set of female genitals that truly, we kept it separate, right, to everything else, because no one could make out what it actually was. It looked like a wrinkled up pixie face in a big tall hat. So it was like the pixie face. It's awful, isn't it? See, this is why it's bad that tattoo artists have downtime. We get up to hijinks. I apologize. It's just fine. Your vagina is fine. If it looks like a pixie face, that's fine, okay? It's fine. But just be warned, you will get names if you're a special kind of customer. JP, was that you who had the customer that got, we used to have all sorts of names. In fact, we had a lurker, but he wasn't. No, that's the thing, Nicole. She wasn't. She was, I think, in 3 Basby. But anyway, that's the whole, that's too much. I've already said too much, okay? But anyway, there was all sorts of eyes and things stuck on that photograph. Nicole L, there was all sorts of hijinks with that photograph. But JP, I'm sure it was him, had a customer who used to stink out the whole studio. And he was doing a tattoo on her very close to her nether regions. And she would always wear these like really baggy undies. Like, it's okay, you don't ever wear good undies to get a tattoo because they're just going to get pigment all over them. But it was like they were baggy, like at the leg they were baggy. And if you're a lady, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like baggy at the leg. No, thank you. Not unless they're meant to be like that. And who makes undies like that? Yeah. See, Nicole L gets me, right? And she actually earned herself a name, Stinky Vagina Lady. And when JP would have stinky vagina lady in as a customer. Everybody else would try to be somewhere else. Because I said to him, dude, it's okay to say to her, excuse me, I'm not going to tattoo you today. Your vagina is too smelly. Please, for my sake, please go and get some femme fresh. It would have been okay. Maybe no one's told her. She might have a medical problem and nobody's told her. But it's okay to say, excuse me, lady, your vagina's too smelly. I'm not going to tattoo it today. Was that Jamie? Yeah, it was Jamie. But he wouldn't tell her. He wouldn't tell her that it was bad. But I tell you what, he sure did work quick. Oh, let me tell you about one of JP's customers. Maybe two. When John Paul first started tattooing, I did warn him. I said, you're going to... Yes, I'm Glen 20. Oh, I actually reckon that would have made it smell worse. The smells mixing together. No, thank you. Anyway, I gave JP the talk of ladies coming into the tattoo studio and cracking on to the male tattoo artists and wanting cheap work in exchange for favours and, we used to call them pussy jobs, but they weren't really professional to do, and it's not really something you should do. But it doesn't stop ladies trying, and JP didn't believe me until once the receptionist and I did the AJ fadeaway on him once in the tattoo shop. There was this lady, and then he ended up talking to her, and we just went outside and were watching through the window. And she said to him, she was just, flirting with him and saying, oh, that's a bit too expensive. And I told JP, you are not doing work that's cheap because I want my percentage, right? I'm the boss. I want my percentage. If you're doing work undercutting it just because a lady's gonna, do something with you, I want my money, damn it. Okay, do that in your own time. And it was funny because she was telling him that she'd just gotten a big job coming up, and I can't remember what it was. She was was she a skimpy barmaid, JP? Or was she like a topless barmaid or something? And it was at some crappy hotel, one that was out past West End or something. It was terrible, right? Yeah, she knew exactly what she was doing, Jay Hayes. She knew exactly what she was doing. And I ain't saying she's a gold digger, She was a hobbit dwarf. Come on, she wasn't that bad. But she was an oil painting. And I think was it a topless barmaid or something? And she said, oh, I've got a big job coming up soon. And what if you did it now for me and I paid you after that job, And then JP got an introduction into the having to say no to... to a pussy job. So that was pretty funny because we knew exactly what was going on through that window, and we could see JP shuffling his feet, titty girl at a footy club. See, that's not even as classy, is it? That's really not classy at all. That's not quality. That's not quality titty there, okay? So he wasn't even tempted. We actually used to have some hijinks. We had some hijinks with JP when his first paid tattoo customer, when we booked that in for him. Do you remember that, JP? I'm sure you'll never forget, right? In our tattoo shop hijinks, it's a big deal when it comes to doing your very first paid tattoo. So it's on someone who you don't know. It's like... my whole career sounds like the... Good morning, Jody. Hi, how are you? Deaconess Jody, congratulations again. We're just doing some tattoo shop talk, so I hope it's not too rough for you. I'm sure you'll be fine though. And so it's a big deal when you get your first paid customer. It's not one of your friends. It's not someone you... Come on. Was your first, wasn't it? One of your first. Anyway, we made this appointment when JP wasn't around, and we thought we'd have some fun. It was a Playboy bunny, so it's just all solid Playboy bunny, and it was on the butt. And we thought, JP's going to see this in the reception book, so let's have some fun. So we wrote it down and we wrote Playboy bunny on bum. And he was so surprised when he saw the reception book. He thought, what? Yeah, hell yeah, this is going to be great. It was actually a dude who had come in, but actually he was determined he wanted it. He was prepared to pay the extra. Oh, that's so good. Prison ministry, bless you, Jody. Bless you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would have heard a lot. I figured you're not a shrinking violet. Good grief. Strong woman of the kingdom, just like me, I think. And he actually, we may have altered the name in the reception book to make it sound like a lady's name. So he was all excited. He was even saying, so how big's this butt? And we'd say, about not this big, and that. It ended up being a dude. And I think what was even funnier was the T-shirts they were wearing on that day. I can't remember what they said, but it was actually pretty. It was actually pretty funny. Another thing that happens in tattoo shops is we get very, very busy. Now, we are aware that your tattoos are very, very important to you. Like, they couldn't be more important. And we want the tattoo to be, it's important to us too. But you need to know it's never as important to us as it is to you. So I've called this little story Still Looking. JP will know exactly what I'm talking about. I used to have a wall, because I did only custom work, right? So I'd be designing tattoos from this, about the size of your palm, to huge tattoos. So I'd have lots of drafts. My customers would come back in and check the draft, to see what it looked like, so there was any changes they could make. And then, yeah, that's a good question, Ross. How do you know? How do you know, Jay? I didn't know that. And apart from that, Kaz told me he doesn't have a bum. So where is it then? And I'd have a wall of these pictures that I was currently drawing. So sometimes I would be running a little behind doing drawings. So someone would come in and ask for their tattoo, and it was usually the same people would just come in every week wanting to see their tattoo. And if you couldn't find it, like you'd say, oh, look, it must be out the back. And so you'd go out in the back room. All the action happens in the back room in a tattoo shop, let me tell you. And you'd be rustling papers while you were quickly drawing it. And you'd just say, oh, I'm still looking. Or you get an apprentice to rustle papers while you were quickly whipping something up to show them, to say, hey, what about this shape, or like this and that? And you'd change it. It was still effective. But that's the still looking. Sorry, I'm still looking while you're drawing, and the apprentice is shuffling the papers to make it sound like you're actually looking. Now, this next story, I wasn't sure what to call it, so I've called it Frank Spencer. Do any of you remember, was it Frank Spencer? Ooh, Betty. Do any of you remember that guy? Okay, this happened to JP. Well, yeah, no, it happened to JP. And Frank Spencer. This guy, we'd all be waiting, standing out the front of our tattoo shop, right? Getting some fresh air, people would be having cigarettes, whatever, and you're standing out there, you're chatting. And then anybody who walked past, your whole studio, if you're out there, because it was a social event really, would be at risk of getting stuck talking to a stack hat guy or someone with a hospital bracelet. This guy did have a stack hat on, but he was on a bike. Okay, so we'll give him that. Some mothers do have them. Okay. Do you still remember this guy, JP? And this guy rode up, and I knew it because he was slowing down, right? But we were all stuck. And he stopped right in the middle of us all, like on the footpath, and we were on either side of the footpath. Tattoo artists, customers, friends of the shop. And he just started talking to us, and he was telling it. He even had bike clips, right, on his jeans, but yet he was telling us he had a motorbike, really, but that it had been stolen or something, and so that's why he wasn't on his motorbike right now. And then he just launched into this Frank Spencer impression. Like, he just started putting on a show for us of Frank Spencer, right? And it was I'm not going to say it was a bad impression, but it was no better than anybody else's Frank Spencer impression, right? And this dude looked like a skinny Santa too, by the way. And so we all started to do the fadeaway because he seemed to be focusing in on JP. And as I was doing the last of the fadeaway, JP's looking at us all with these huge eyes like a deer in the headlight because he could see what we were doing, but he was trapped. He was trapped in between a council planter box and this guy's bike. So he couldn't move. But everybody else, it must have been about 5-6 people, all did the fadeaway on him. And as I was leaving, I just heard him say that he could even do Kevin Bloody Wilson and who was the other guy? I can't remember. But he could even do their jokes in a Frank Spencer voice. So then he started doing Rodney Rude and Kevin Bloody Wilson jokes in a Frank Spencer voice to JP. And then we all just watched from the other side of the window, watching him get stuck there. And he was stuck there for so long. You loved it, didn't you, JP? You've not forgotten the Frank Spencer guy doing Rodney Rude jokes. I know you haven't. Sometimes, okay, I've called this next little story Weekend at Bernie's. People faint in getting tattoos. They just do. There's no shame in it. You're probably too stressed. You're probably too worked up. And most of the time, your tattoo artist will just do the right thing. But when you got this guy has walked into this ladies only, it's not ladies only, it's just we only had female tattoo artists at the time, and that was just by happenstance. And he walked in and he was like the coolest cat in town. Hi, Simon Powell, nice to see you. And he was a crack up, yeah, but you didn't want to get stuck there any longer than you had to be. And this guy, oh no, it's fine, we're just catching up. And he came in. And he was like the coolest cat in town. And he actually wanted to be tattooed by a man because, you know, he was pretty tough. He reckoned he could be tattooed for a long, long time. And I was doing his tattoo. Was I doing it? Or was someone else doing it? No, I was doing it. And there wasn't much going else on. It must have been in the middle of the day. And he fainted, like no warning at all, right? And he just dropped. Usually you can tell they go grey, they go clammy. He just dropped. And here's the thing. They'd only done the tiniest bit of the outline. Like he may as well have passed out when I put the stencil on. And he was out, and he was out for like the longest I reckon I've ever seen anybody in the tattoo parlour faint for. So we may have picked up his hand and made him wave at the people outside the window for a little bit. Only because he was being such an asshat like beforehand. So if you're going to be an asshat to the ladies in a tattoo studio, don't pass out around the ladies in the tattoo studio. You know who in any tattoo studio I've worked in, JP holds the record. They drop like flies around JP. I think he doesn't have a very good bedside manner. He must be a bit frightening, but I actually have the really lowest pass out record. I'm very gentle. I always make sure my customers are well prepared. I'm pretty sure that's what it's about. Okay, this next story, wasn't even sure if I should tell you, and I thought, no, I should, just so you can get the scene of what it's like to work in a tattoo studio. I called it After Hours Only because I'm working in the studio and then a strange request comes in and it's a dominatrix on the phone, you know, whatever. I'm not going to judge your kink. No, it's fine. That's your life. You do what you want with it. But she wanted to bring her slave in, for one of her slaves, for a tattoo. But she said she wanted to bring him in on a lead. Would that be okay? And I said, well, you know, that's highly unusual. It's not actually something we would usually do or consider, you know. And yeah, all right, fair enough, JP. All right, I had vomiter. It was one girl. I think she was hungover. She lied to me about drinking. So what? She did it in the sink. So what? And I said, well, you know, it's going to cost extra because we'll have to do it outside of hours and we'll have to shut the studio. And also I would need to make sure I had his specific consent. And she said, well, he'll have to come in and do that alone because whenever he was around her, he had to be totally submissive. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant until after this appointment. So it was actually for a piercing, I think, not for a tattoo. And so anyway, he came in, he gave consent, prior consent, and he was consenting himself. And then the time for the appointment, yes, exactly, Michael Stott. The time for the appointment came, the rest of the shop was closed up. I go to the back door as I had specified, and in comes this middle-aged lady, dressed as you would imagine, full dominatrix, with a man in leather underpants on a leash on all fours. We did the procedure. It was fine. I wasn't allowed to talk to him. I was only allowed to talk to her and listen to her tease him about crying and things like that. And he was paying for that pleasure, by the way. Yeah, I felt very uncomfortable, though. It was like, okay, I know that you dig this. I know that this is your choice. But, you know, and that was even before I became a Christian, but you all needed Jesus. They really did. It was really, really, it was strange. Yeah, exactly, Stoddy. It was strange. It made me feel very uncomfortable, even though they were some of the most pleasant people I'd ever spoken to. But it was very strange. So I've called that one after hours only. Because, yes, maybe I'll do that. You'll have to pay extra, and we're not doing it during, you know, opening hours. And not everything that happens in the tattoo shop that's special is funny. This next story I call Bonding Through Grief, because this is something very, very special that happened to me. It was almost closing time, and I was doing my last customer for the day, and a man came in, and I don't think I had an apprentice or someone to talk to him, so I spoke to him just over the counter while I was sitting there tattooing. And he said he wanted to get a tattoo and he wanted it done straight away. And he was actually even a little bit like angry. And I thought, okay, I'll be careful because it was evening time. And I'm not sure if I was there alone, but I was often there alone at the tattoo shop. Yeah, exactly, JP. And I said, look, you know, I'm doing my last customer. What is it you want? And he showed it to me, but then he broke down in tears and he said, my son just died last night. His son was like drag racing and that and died. And the story was, I'm not going to cry, not going to cry, not going to cry. Don't cry, it's fine. And the story was that his son had really wanted a tattoo and he'd been waiting, because I turned him away and said, you've got to wait till you're 18 to get the tattoo, his son. And he said to me that his son had said to him, come with me and get a tattoo, Dad. And he'd said, over my dead body, I'm never going to get a tattoo with you. You're an idiot for getting a tattoo. But that now his son was dead, the first thing he was going to do was go get a tattoo. And he brought in the pictures that his son had drawn and that his son wanted tattooed. And he got them tattooed and we bonded. I did it that day, and then we ended up doing more and more and more, and this guy ended up getting plastered, and in fact I wouldn't take his money for it. And so he used to bring me like a 6-pack bottle of wine to say thank you. He'd find out what sort of wine I liked and he'd bring me 6 bottles of Chardonnay or something, and I'd always make time for him, for Neville. And because his story broke my heart, but we made a really great friendship. We ended up being great friends because he came in every week, and we used to laugh and cry together. And I had a very special friendship with Neville. You know, I would love to actually see him again one day. That would be fantastic. But we ended up doing lots of tattoos on Neville, and it is a sad story, but it's a beautiful story too, you know, because it's tragic. Don't hoon around in your cars, kids. Nobody thinks they're going to die. The last story I was going to share with you will lighten the mood a bit. Only a little bit, though, because this one's dark, okay? I'm pretty sure JP will remember this. I didn't know what to call it, so I decided to call it Lucifer. Lucifer came in my tattoo shop once. Yeah, exactly, Michael Stott. And also the bleeding sounds funny. It can help. It's almost like productive cutting, because you're getting something productive out of it. I had this great customer, and he was a big boy. Like, he was taller than anybody I knew. He would have been, I reckon, at least 6'3". JP, how tall do you reckon Lucifer was? And he was massive. Like, he was a big guy. He was part Indigenous, part Islander, part Irish even. So that's a volatile mix. And he had some mental health issues. And but I didn't know that. I'd been tattooing him for years. I don't think he even really knew that until he had a breakdown. Yeah, it was a beautiful story, actually, Jody. It was a really amazing thing. And I'm so glad I took the time to do that tattoo, because I was like the fourth tattoo studio he'd been to, and he loved me very much because I actually understood what it meant, and I took the time to do it. And there was no way I was going to take his money. 6'5" at least. Yeah, he was a big guy, this customer of mine. And I'd been tattooing him for years. In fact, he'd been like my first customer in my own tattoo studio, my first customer that I didn't know from anywhere. And he was massive. And it wasn't unusual for him to walk in. And in fact, he used to come in so often. Him and Neville knew each other, right? So often your regular customers would know each other and chat to each other. And he walked in one day, and he didn't just walk in, he like marched in with purpose. It was so totally different than how he'd ever... He even called my mum. He knew me so well. And he was really kind of paranoid. He kept like looking around, and he said to me, I need you to tattoo me. I actually had an appointment in the book, and it said Shane, which was his name, but I'd actually thought it was him, but it was actually for a totally different Shane. And so this is where it gets it's a comedy of errors. It was really weird. And he said, I need this tattoo. And I said, yeah, I've got it planned that we were going to keep doing this thing that we've been doing on his back. And he said, no. He said, my name's Lucifer now, and you can write Lucifer on the back of my neck. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, I'm not going to do that at all. Why would you want that? I said, that's not what we'd planned at all. He said, right, then you can tattoo on my arm. You won't take what's mine, the girls or something. And in actual fact, he was being so aggressive that I was getting really scared, because he was in between telling me this. He was telling me that I should know what he was talking about, because you and Neville were in the shop when this happened, JP. He kept saying that I had been talking to him during the gaps on the TV, and that I should know what he was talking about, and that everybody else was talking in blinks except I wasn't, and that I'd been talking to him on the during the gaps while he'd been watching TV. And of course I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die, because he was just telling me about how he just frog marched two people down the road. And I was actually really worried about him, but I was actually pretty worried about myself, because I think I was pregnant at the time, and it was actually really frightening. So I ended up actually doing one of the tattoos. Yeah, exactly, Jay. It was scary. So I ended up doing one of the tattoos. I refused to do the Lucifer one. And I thought, God, good, he's gone. So we tried to ring his girlfriend after that, because he was driving his girlfriend's car, but we didn't know where she was, and we couldn't get her on the phone. So we started to get worried about her. And what happened next was he came in the next day, just as agitated, right? And he walked right up to me, and he was looking at like Neville and JP as if he'd never met them before. But he knew them very, very well. And he said, he looked at me and he said, Eve, it's time to go into space. And I was scared. And I said, well, I just want to get him out of my shop. I didn't want to be in my shop with him because I believe JP was still here with me when it happened. And I just want to get out on the street where there was people just in case he did something wacky. Because what does that mean? What is that? One, I'm not Eve. Two, what do you mean we're going to space? What? What does that mean? To me, that didn't mean anything good. Okay, so I managed to lure him outside of my shop and I said, I absolutely can't go right now. I said, I've got like a 10:30 tattoo appointment. I can't do that. I can't go into space now. And in actual fact, there's probably a couple of days in between there, but each day he was coming in acting weird and scary. And he wanted me to go into space. And I said I couldn't because I had a tattoo appointment. And somehow he was okay with that. Now, it was at this point that I'm pretty sure we told JP's mum, who had a shop just a couple of stores down from my tattoo shop. It was JP's shop too, long story, another story. And we told her that if there's this crazy, they even knew him. If Shane comes in, he's not in his right mind, be careful. And it was about 6 o'clock in the morning when one of my kids came into the bedroom and said, Mum, Shane's here at my house. And I didn't want Shane at my house at 6 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, JP was there. So I said, I'm not going out there to talk to him. I said, kids, come here. And all the kids came in and we locked ourselves in. But JP actually had to be the dude, go and talk to him, even though we know that he thinks JP's talking to other people in blinks and that he's getting in the way of his taking me into space, whatever that means. And so JP went out there, and I remember JP, who is no shrinking violet, right? JP's tough. He's about as tough as they come. And he went out and he's sitting on the steps with him and he was talking to him. And he's saying, you can't just come around to Lauren's house. You can't just do that. And I don't actually know. Yeah, it was bad. It got real scary. And it went on for about a week, I think, the whole Lucifer saga. And anyway, he managed, JP somehow, I can't remember how, managed to get rid of this dude. But that night, a whole group of X2RR guys rocked up with hockey sticks, cricket bats, whatever else you can imagine. Because JP had said, I wouldn't have been able, JP's a good fighter, right? JP's a great boxer. And JP said, he's just so big, I wouldn't have been able to take him down on my own. So we had all these people here. And yeah, you stayed on the stairs, so you were bigger. Well, because I wasn't, there was no way I was going out there. Yeah, he did need help. He needed help. And all the while, Keely, we're still trying to get a hold of his girlfriend because he's driving his girlfriend's car around. We're thinking worst case scenario by this case that, did his girlfriend go into space? What the heck? This dude is scary, big, and needed help. And so he managed to get rid of him somehow. And I think there was like some incidents that night when the guys had been around, but it was nothing to do with him as far as I know. Just a coincidence that there was a snake found on my road, a nice python, but you get a lot of pythons. Yeah, exactly. Second to none. Those men in black, I love them so much. They're my boys. And what happened was lucky we told JP's mum about what was going on with Shane, because all of our shops used to have like a big common warehouse at the back. So there was all the shop fronts, but at the back they all went into one big enclosed space. And JP's mum was, when we went into the tattoo studio that morning, she was waiting for us and she said, don't go in there. And we said, why not? And she said, because I've got Shane locked up in the back. And I said, what? We'd actually rung the police already by this stage and they just couldn't find him. And, JP's mum's only a little lady in that, but she'd got him locked. She had Lucifer locked up in the back of everybody's shops. So there was the tattoo shop, there was like a sex shop in the middle, and then there was Grid North, which was JP's shop. And she said he'd come in and he had a bundle of keys, and he said to her, I'm going to go in and wait for Lauren. Something like that. He said, I've got a key to get in the shop. He didn't have a key. He didn't have a key to get in my shop, but he had this bundle of keys. And so she said, yeah, just go in through the back. And because we'd warned her, she quickly locked the back door to her shop. And we had Lucifer locked out the back of all these shops. We knew the sex shop people wouldn't be there. They didn't, they worked later than pub hours. But if he did have a key to my shop, he was going to be waiting for me. He was waiting for me to get to work. So thankfully, my wonderful ex-mother-in-law, who is still she's a wonderful ex-mother-in-law now, she had him locked up in the back, and we called the cops, and they managed to take him, and he spent some time in hospital, and his girlfriend was just fine. And he even popped back into the tattoo shop, and I remember him doing it because I was instantly scared. But he was obviously medicated, and he said I wanted to come in and apologize. And I said, you don't need to apologize. I said, but you do need to understand why you can't come in here anymore, because you frighten me too much for you to come in here. And so he seemed to understand, and then that was the end of the Lucifer saga. That was probably one of the scariest things that's happened to me in the tattoo shop, I reckon, the Lucifer saga. Because there's not too many people that JP couldn't do away with. Like, we have to remember, he's trained to make people's heads disappear from a distance. But this guy was bad. He was not doing well at all. So I was actually really glad, because I said to them, I don't want to press charges, but he needs to be helped. He needs to be locked up. He needs some help, because I promise I'm not talking through the gaps in the ads on the TV. Is there gaps in the ads? And people talking in blinks. Imagine living that reality. I felt really sad for him. How awful, that'd be really quite awful. So has anyone got any questions about what it's like in the tattoo studio? I'm sure you're much more enlightened now. I thought we'd do a nice little Saturday night stream, as we're probably all missing Kaz so very much. Yeah, I tell you, because, you kind of get stalkers in the tattoo shop. Even men get stalkers, but tattoo artists, we're kind of like Z-grade celebrities, and you get stalkers, right? But, oh my God, I'm pretty sure I was pregnant at the time too, Jay, and it was frightening, especially when he rocked up at my house. Like, I just praise God that JP was actually able to convince him to go away, and later, because what if he hadn't, me and my kids and JP and everyone could have been dead, from this guy's delusion. Yeah, what would you like, Simon? I shall try. I shall use all my tattoo wisdom. Just shoot, because we'll be getting out of here soon. So if you've got any tattoo questions, just ask away. I'm still waiting for an email from you, Simon Powell. Yeah, no, 2RAR, they're the best. They don't mind helping a damsel in distress, and they're very good. I think he was schizophrenic, Keely. I think he was. I think he'd had a meltdown for sure. Yep, for sure. Really, Jody, I'm glad you're doing the mental health first aid class, because you're going to need that doing your prison ministry. Good on JP's mum. Yes, indeed. That was quick thinking. She's a paramedic, so she was lucky we told her, Yeah. He did. We'd actually been ringing people for a couple of days, and I don't think they were looking very hard for him. You have a tattoo with your daughter's name along with a halo and a devil's tail. Designed it myself now. It just seems cringeworthy. Just go see a tattoo artist and get it covered up with something better, Do you know what? You can redo old tattoos, and you can make them look like new. They can look beautiful. In fact, redone tattoos look better when they're redone than the first time. I've redone tattoos that were 40, 50 years old. You could easily redo a tattoo. You can easily design on. Yeah, all you have to do is go see someone. They'll take a tracing of it, Simon. And if you think of what you'd like to do to honor her better, then you just give them your ideas, your resources, and they'll use that tracing and they'll design a great cover up or reworking of it, and they can do it. There's so many options you can do. You can always Yeah, it's not even just the needles. It's even the pigments we've got nowadays are good. They're actually not, they're polymers now. They're plastics, so they work better in the dermis. But yes, the needle groupings are heaps better. When I first started, there was single needle outlines and round needle groupings. Now we've got magnums and usually a 3 or a 9 different sorts of outlines. So yeah, it is all round better now. But yeah, there's a million ways you can fix it. You can email me a photo of it, Simon. I gave you my email the other day. So chuck a photo of that in there with it. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, polymers rarely have any animal products in anyway, you know, so they're better off. The fully synthetic ones are the best colors. They won't fade so quick. You know, when I first started, reds and yellows were iffy. You know, sometimes they wouldn't stay in as well, but nowadays you can do just about anything with them. You can. But yeah, just email me a picture of it, Simon. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I don't even know how long we've been here, but I hope you enjoyed Tales from the Tattoo Shop. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the little tidbits about what goes on in the back room of tattoo studios. So I hope you can join me on Monday at 9:30. I don't know if I'll be doing nighttime streams. Maybe just sometimes if I'm bored and lonely and don't have any other plans, I'll come have a date with you guys. So as long as you don't ever want to take me into space, that's just fine. So, all right, I'm going to get out of here. Yeah, thank you all for being here. It's been heaps of fun. You guys are great. Yeah, that's okay, Simon. Just send me one of the tattoo and then we'll get talking and then it'll be good. So you guys have a really awesome Saturday night and be good and don't get into trouble and remember to have a good wash before you go into your tattoo studio. All right, love and kisses, guys. Bye. See you later.